consumer surplus. Let's see what is consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is an economic measurement of consumer benefits. The consumer surplus happens when the price that consumer pay for a commodity or service is less than the price they are willing to pay. So it is a measure of additional benefit that consumer receive because they are paying less for something than what they were willing to pay. So the difference between willing to pay and actual pay is called consumer surplus. We understand the concept of consumer surplus. The concept of consumer surplus was developed in 1844 to measure the social benefits of public goods such as national highways, canals and bridges. So it has been an important tool in the field of welfare economics and the formulation of tax policies by the governments. So the consumer surplus is based on the economic theory of marginal utility, which is additional satisfaction a consumer gains from one more unit of a good or service. The utility of a good or service provides varies from individual to individual based on their personal preference. Typically, the more of good or service that consumers have, the less they are willing to spend for more of it. Due to the diminishing marginal utility or additional benefit they receive, a consumer surplus occurs when consumer is willing to pay more for a given product than the current market price. Assumption of consumer surplus. So in this, first we will see utility can be measured. First assumption is utility can be measured and no substitute is available, ceteris paribus, constant marginal utility of money, independent marginal utility, and one more assumption is law of diminishing marginal utility. Let's see one by one these assumptions. So first one is utility can be measured. So in this utility is measured in cardinal numbers. That is utility. For example, utility from an apple is 1 util and utility from an orange is 2 util. Here util is an marginal unit. And next assumption is no substitute is available. So in this commodity does not have close substitute. In case substitutes are available means there will be a difficulty in calculating or measuring consumer surplus. So marginal can be theoretically avoided by grouping the two rival commodities together under a common demand schedule. So next assumption is ceteris paribus. So in this it assumes that income, taste and fashion of the people remains constant. And next one is constant marginal utility of money. So in this, quantum of money stock with the consumer does not affect the marginal utility of that particular consumer, or it doesn't affect the marginal utility of money to him. And next assumption is independent marginal utility. So in this it assumes that the utility of a commodity depends upon the quantity of that commodity alone. For example, utility derived from an Samsung smartphone depends only on its quantity. The quantity of Apple iPhone does not affect the Samsung smartphone. And last assumption is law of diminishing marginal utility. So in this assumption, this theory is applicable only, there is consumer surplus is applicable only if the law of diminishing marginal utility is valid. Let me conclude the concept of consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is a good way to measure the value of product or service, and it is an important tool used by government in the Marshallian system of welfare economics to formulate tax policies. It can be used to compare the benefits of two commodities and is often used by monopolies when deciding the price to charge for their products or for its product. Thank you.